Hello all, I am Sapna Chaudhar, Assistant Professor, IIMT Group of Colleges, Greater Noida. Today, we are going to discuss about the introduction to thin layer chromatography. Basically, this thin layer chromatography is shortly called as TLC. So, firstly, definition of chromatography. Chromatography is the simplest technique in which one phase is simply called as stationary phase and other phase is simply called as mobile phase, and the mixture or component of the mixture of the component is simply travels through the stationary phase and mobile phase, and the separation of these mixture takes place using this technique. So basically, chromatography is a physical method of separation in which the component to be separated are distributed between two phases, one of which is stationary phase and while other is the mobile phase, which is moves in the definite direction. Basically, various steps are used, various techniques are techniques of chromatography used for the separation of component, like column chromatography. Simply adsorption principle is used in this column chromatographic technique. So column chromatography are also called as adsorption chromatography. In case of column chromatography, the stationary phase is in the solid form and mobile phase is in the liquid form. Second step, second method, partition chromatography. Liquid and liquid are the both phases, that is your stationary and mobile phase, both are in the liquid form. Next, paper chromatography. In case of paper chromatographic technique, the stationary phase is in the liquid form and mobile phase is also in the liquid form. Next, TLC. Liquid or solid used as a stationary phase and liquid is also used as a mobile phase. Gas liquid chromatography. Whenever gas liquid chromatography or gas solid chromatography, whenever the gas is used in any chromatographic technique, the simple mobile phase is used in that techniques is in the gaseous form. In case of gas liquid chromatography, liquid is in the stationary phase, and in case of gas solid chromatography, solid is in the stationary phase. And last step is your ion exchange chromatography, in which exchange of ions takes place and the solid is in the stationary form or liquid phase is in the mobile form. Mobile phase is in the liquid form. Introduction. Actually, TLC is the simplest technique and a very costly effective method. Various chromatographic techniques are used for the qualitative and quantitative analysis of the separation of organic compounds and to check the purity compounds. So this one is a very famous method of separation of components, in which a mobile phase, simply called as developing solvents or any solvents like your methyl acetate or methanol, is simply used for the separation of components. And second is your stationary phase. It a plate or strip coated with the silica gel used as a stationary phase in TLC, and analysis is performed on the flat surface under the atmospheric pressure and the room at the room temperature. So basically, the whenever the separation of compounds takes place, the separation is in between stationary phase and the liquid mobile phase. When elutant or the mixture of the components is travels through the travels with the mobile phase over the stationary phase, the components which are having higher affinity towards the stationary phase are travels very slow speed, and in case of the components having affinity towards the mobile phase are travels faster, and the separation of components are takes place in fast rate, and the recovery of the separated compounds by the continuous flow of the mobile phase is done, and it is simply qualitative. It is simply done a qualitative and quantitative analysis of the eluted substances. So where this technique can be used in case of pharmaceuticals and drug testing of the various pharmaceuticals, testing or the separation of various pharmaceuticals and drugs takes place using this TLC technique. In case of clinical chemistry, biochemistry, and forensic chemistry, TLC is also used in that department also. Next is your cosmetology, and for food analysis, for environmental analysis, or the analysis of inorganic substances. TLC is used in the various departments, and this technique is very famous for the separation of the components. Next, principle of TLC. Basically, TLC is based on the principle of adsorption chromatography or the partition chromatography. Adsorption is done by the considering the nature of the solvents or nature of the adsorbent and the treatment and the nature of the solvents employed. The components with more affinity towards the stationary phase travels slow rate, and in case of less affinity towards the stationary phase travels faster. In case of a thin sheet or the thin layer of solid surface is used, like your thin sheet of glass or plastic and aluminium as a thin, the diameter, thickness is 0.25 millimeter thick, and in many cases a small amount of binder such as plaster of Paris is also mixed with the adsorbents to facilitate the coating. In case of mixture of components like A plus B component to be separated are dissolved into the solvent, and the resultant solution is spotted using the thin layer plate near the bottom, and a solvent or a mixture of solvents called as a elutant is allowed to flow up the plate by the capillary action. At all the time, the solid will absorb a certain fraction of each component of the mixture, and the remainder will be the solution. Next, any one molecule will spend part of the time sitting still, the adsorbents within the remainder moving up to the plate with the solvent. A substance that is strongly adsorbed, like A substance is strongly adsorbed, will have a greater fraction of its molecule adsorbed at any one time, and thus any one molecule of A will spend more time sitting still and less time moving, and vice versa. Separation of components is done on the flat surfaces, and the component migrated in different rate due to differences in solubility and adsorption or size or the charge on the molecule. And the components which are separated are examined for the further analysis. So the TLC is distribution, TLC in the TLC separation is distributed between the stationary and the mobile phase, and the developing liquid which is travels fastly over the stationary phase, and how to preparation of chromatographic plate. Firstly, glass plates or flexible plates are commonly used as an adsorbent. Size used depends on types of separation to be carried out and the type of chromatographic tank and spreading apparatus available. The standard sizes are 20 by 5 cm, 20 by 10 cm, or 20 by 20 cm. The surface should be flat without irregularities, and the standard thickness of the flat surfaces is 250 micrometer. Various methods are used for the application of adsorbents. First one is pouring, then dipping, spraying, and spreading. When pouring method is applicable, this pouring method is divided a homogeneous particle size or the slurry is poured onto the plate and allowed to flow over. So that one is evenly covered. That plate is evenly covered with the slurry. Then next one is your dipping method. This technique is used for the small plates by dipping the two plates at a time back to back in a slurry of adsorbent in chloroform or other volatile solvents. Exact thickness of layer is not known, and evenness of layer may not be good in using dipping technique. Third one is spraying, and fourth one is spreading method. So slurry is diluted further for the operation of spraying, but this technique is not used because the uniformity of layer is not even. So spreading technique is next technique. All the above methods fail to give thin and uniform layers. Modern methods utilize the spreading devices for the preparation of uniform thin layers on the glass plates. Commercial spreaders are used like moving spreaders or moving plate type spreaders use spreaders giving thickness of about 0.2 to 2.0 millimeter. Activation of plates. Various steps are used for the TLC. First one is activation of plates, then various solvent systems are used for the moving the mobile phase. After spreading of plates are allowed to dry in air and further dried and activated by heating at about 30 minutes. By removing the liquid associated with the layer completely, the adsorbent layer is activated. Next, solvent system. Solvent system is having the main task in the separation of mixture of the substances. to transport the substances to be separated across the solvent layer or to provide the adequate selectivity. And the main part which is considered for the solvent system, solvent must not interact with the other substances which are to be separated, and having less stability and low viscosity and low toxicity as well. Second, the solvent system. Choice of solvent system is based on the nature of substances to be separated, nature of the stationary phase used, mode of chromatographic technique like normal phase chromatographic technique or reverse phase chromatographic technique, separation to be achieved or analytical or preparative separation. So the solvent system chosen accordingly. How to run the thin layer chromatographic technique? First, prepare the developing container. Next, prepare the TLC plates. Next, spot the TLC plate. Next, develop the plate. Fifth one, visualize the spot. First one is preparation of developing container. So the preparation of developing container, simply a jar with the lid is used for the container, used as a container for the TLC technique, and the solvent is poured onto the chamber, and depth is just less than 0.5 centimeter. To aid the saturation of the TLC chamber with the solvent vapor, you can line part of the inside of the beaker with the filter paper, and after that cover the beaker with the using lid and allow it until you prepare the TLC plates. Next, spot the TLC plate. After doing the container, preparation of containers, we are having the spot on the TLC plate. Prepare 1% solution of drug dissolving in the volatile solvent like hexane, ethyl acetate, or methylene chloride. Dip the microcap or microcapillary into the solution and then gently touch the end of it onto the paper location on the TLC plate. Don't allow the spot to become too large. If necessary, you can touch it to the plate, but make sure that spot is does not become too large. And this example of plate has been spotted with the 3 different quantities of the same solution is ready to develop. Next, place that prepared plate onto the developing beaker and cover the beaker with the glass and leave it undisturbed for the distribution of the solvent. The solvent will rise up to the TLC plate by capillary action and allow the plate to develop until the solvent is about the half of the centimeter below the top of the plate. Then after the whole development of the solvents, remove the plate from the beaker and immediately mark the solvent front with the pencil. And the last step is visualize the spots. After the spreading of the solvent, application of the solvent and running of the solvent over the TLC plate, last stage is your visualize the spots. If there are many colored spots, circle them lightly with the pen, and the most samples are not colored and need to be visualized with the UV lamp. Hold the UV lamp over the plate and circles any spots you can see using the UV lamp. But make sure you are not using your naked eyes for the visualization of the spot. So you can analyze the mixture using you can separate the mixture using the TLC technique. So that's all about the introduction of TLC technique. Thank you so much.